Alrighty, so before the first check clears, before the press releases and the spotlight, there's often a hidden cost that many women founders pay, the cost of being underestimated. And it shows up in our personal sacrifices, the rooms we're the only one in, the doubt we face again and again. And in this episode of Returns on Resilience, we'll unpack these costs and the poise that it takes to turn them into strengths. Joining me today, I'm so excited. We have our first We alumni. This is great moment. Jen Graham, founder and CEO of Inclusivv, and Tamara Lucas, founder and CEO of PANDA. Welcome, and thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you so much. So we're going to jump right in as we always do. Let's just start off about telling us a little bit about you, your business, how you got into entrepreneurship. How'd you get here today? Let's start with Jen.
Oh, wow. Well, my name is Jen, and I started Inclusivv almost 10 years ago, back in 2014, as a total social experiment. And it was actually known as Civic Dinners, and that's still our legal name. But it was really all about bringing people together around the dinner table for conversations that matter. A bunch of renegade millennials started it over wine, over my living room, and it was magical. And suddenly it caught on. There was a craving for connection and meaningful conversation around the city, and especially at a time when there was low mojo happening, kind of like what's happening in the U.S. in general right now. So we tapped into that, and we said that it can be better. We can rally around what we love about Atlanta, what we'd love to love, and find our role in it. So it was designed as a total social experiment. It wasn't meant to be a business in the beginning, and then we got our first customer, and it kind of just evolved into a business. We developed a model. We branded ourselves as Civic Dinners. We grew it. We started working with nonprofits like Planned Parenthood and Sierra Club and Teach for America to help bring people together around issues people care about and build community around it. And then COVID happened. COVID canceled dinner. And so we had to shift, and we pivoted really quickly. Thank God we had funding. We had a new project manager. We were able to, or product manager, we were able to flip into a virtual setting within 10 days. And we had one client, Facebook, at the time that really leaned into us hard and helped scale us. We were in Techstars at the time, and just carried on. So we really, at that point, pivoted to doubling down on corporations and the needs within. Discovered diversity, equity, inclusion was a real thing. It was a need, and it was consistent rather than government and nonprofits were potentially grant funded. So they didn't have the mechanisms for continuously engaging us. So but companies needed us continually to do this work internally. So we rebranded ourselves to Inclusivv with 2 V's to try to bring more voices to the table, and went all in. And so we've been doing that work since then, and I'm excited that my passion for entrepreneurship is truly in wanting to build a better world and make sure that everybody has a role to play in co-creating that. So this has been an absolute dream, and I can't believe it started 10 years ago.
Yeah, so I've had the pleasure of attending. And just the uniqueness of the model, it feels a need that I think has been there for so long. And yeah, I can't wait to get into like some of the sacrifices and when we were speaking earlier, just thinking about like how women even make decisions about starting business, that passion to want to make things better and make the world a better place, solve problems. So can't wait to dig into that a little bit more with you. All right, Tamara, how'd you get here, my panda?
Oh, there's a lot. So for the sake of time, so I have a background in psychology and social work, and I went into those majors because I was always helping people anyway. So I'm like, well, I might as well get paid for this, right? So I started off with that. Found myself, however, into sales and marketing and management. I started working for a wholesaler here in town in Atlanta, selling fine wine and spirits. So I did that for really about 15 years. So really kind of digging into, sales and selling small little family wineries and stuff, which is fun because wine is awesome.
Speaking of wine.
We love wine.
Right? And so I was doing that, but even within that job, like I saw some needs, so I didn't really realize my entrepreneurial spirit until people started pointing out. Like I kind of created a job for myself within that distributor. I developed a specialty portfolio manager to really help highlight some of these specialty import portfolios that we weren't really focusing on. So I was doing all that, and in the meantime, I got divorced. I had 2 young kids, so I'm a single mom. So I was just, doing the crazy life of a single mom with 2 young kids. And my family lives in Virginia. They're 500 miles away. My friends were as busy as I was, and I just couldn't get it all done. And one day I had a friend of mine who was working a side gig as a dog walker. And she and I were having lunch, and she was like, oh my God, I go in these people's houses and they need so much more than a dog walk. Like they put a thing in the Rover app or whatever, and I walk in to walk their dog and their kitchen is a disaster. If they would just throw me $20, I could clean up their kitchen. I just have no way to tell them that. I was like, man, I would pay you $20 to clean up my kitchen right now. And so we just came up with the idea that day over lunch. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if we had like an app and we could connect people like you who are like literally walking past the house, and me who has no time, and my house is a disaster, and the laundry is everywhere and the dishes are everywhere. And
I love help.
It's crucial. Because we as human beings are meant to live in community, right? We've always lived in villages. We've always had our moms or our aunts or, people around. But now with our society the way it is, we live in these little houses and neighborhoods, and we're expected to just have this little nuclear family that does everything. And there's people all around us, like right in our community, that have time and a desire to help. So that was kind of the birth of my Panda. We started off, we were called Bamboo Services. We imagined bamboo popping up all around the neighborhood. And that is still our corporate name. So we rebranded to My Panda, which is a personal assistant next door app. So that kind of captures what we do and the hyper-local nature. And the app is our technology. So I really envisioned it just as like for my neighborhood. And I was like, well, maybe one day we'll move out of Oakhurst and we'll be in Winona Park, which is just literally right next door. And then I was like, maybe one day we'll be in a whole city of Decatur, and
I love it.
and then very quickly I started realizing, oh, this is something that is really something that needs to be scaled. Everybody I talked to was like, oh my God, I need that. And so we started to do some testing, and then we raised a little bit of money to develop our app and launched the app. And I was still doing wine sales. I was doing wine dinners and events and traveling throughout the Southeast selling wine. My family's Virginia wine, actually, which is a whole different story. But I had developed a small little portfolio of Virginia wines at the time, too, which was another entrepreneurial thing that I had done. But yeah, and then launched the app, and things were going great, and actually got into We, and right before COVID hit, and then COVID hit, and much like Jen, and then I was like, well, I'm going all in. I mean, I was just sitting at my house with me and my kids, and fortunately had the We program there to help guide me through that. So yeah, and then we just sort of have grown from that point.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Just listening to, I've been just so overwhelmed with inspiration, just listening to the journey of all of the women that I've been able to speak to since stepping into this role. So this is going to be an interesting conversation because we're going to build really like the case, of helping our audience to understand some of the hidden cost. So when we think about, we're going to talk about funding, how you funded your business, but we're also going to talk about those hidden costs, the sacrifices. So I want to start there. Tamara, kind of think back for me to when you first decided to start My Panda. And what were some of those initial sacrifices that you had to make to get started, and then also some of the larger or significant sacrifices that you have made to sustain and to be here today speaking to us?
I mean, I think really, ultimately, the biggest thing it boils down to is time, right? And again, as a mother, as a single mother, with very little support system around me, really just being able to make the decisions as to, what events do you miss of your kids? Like, what busy working, trying to get stuff done, and you don't get a chance to read your kid the nighttime book. So a lot of that was those personal sacrifices based on lack of time. That was the biggest kind of and it still happens, right? Like my kiddo doesn't feel great. He went to school and I'm like, well, I'm going to be busy doing a podcast. So if you don't feel well, you just have to hang out in the nurse, So it's like little things like that, just making those choices. But really also the biggest thing has been, financial. I've sacrificed so much and I've given all of my 401k is gone, I've refinanced my house a couple times. I've, we shop at Aldi, not at Whole Foods. It's like many, many things like that, just because you're stretched thin for so long financially, and you just have to cut corners all the time, and that leads into the emotional sacrifice of the stress and really feeling yourself shut down a lot of times. Just because of it's a sense of trying to survive, right? It's a survival thing where it gets your back little brainstem freaking out, and so that the emotional toll has been a really big sacrifice, and I've had to work really hard to try to keep that in check.
So I know I can totally relate. First off, I'm here with you, Jen. How do you walk us through your decision making when you are making a decision to do that next thing, or when you've had to make a decision to do that next thing to move Inclusivv forward? These sacrifices that Tamara talking about, how do you make those decisions? When is it ever enough? Mm-hmm. When do you pull back? When have you gone too far, or have you went too far?
Oh man, that's bringing in a Frozen analogy here. And yes, I've gone too far. Had to pull myself back. I would say, wow. Well, the first start, I remember sitting with my husband right after we got married, and Civic Dinners had just been born, and we were trying to get enough traction to see where it could go. And I was deciding, should I just stick with my consulting on the side? Because I was making good money, like good, healthy 6-figure money. And I was like, but there's this deep inner desire to just give it my all for 2 years before we start having kids. Like, what can I do for 2 years before we start having a family? Because I know that's when I have this extra time, right, to really dedicate. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go all in. And fuck it. We're going to go.
Do it. Yes.
This is all
in.
No filter.
No filter.
Good to know.
But I was just like, you know what? Let's go all in. And he was right there by my side. I was thankful to have my husband, who's a tech entrepreneur himself. He had a similar business model, was working with cities that were, and so helped me even find I think I borrowed his engineer originally to have just at cost labor for building a prototype that I could start to use. So that felt good. I was using funds from my consulting, similar to you. Like, we had 2 jobs at the same time, basically doing consulting and putting all of that money. And I remember I got the first hire I ever had was because of a loan. I got a $90,000 zero interest loan from Invest Atlanta through their development, and that was amazing. I was like, wow, I'm gonna hire my first COO.
Shout out to Invest Atlanta.
Shout out to Invest Atlanta and the Development Authority. Like, wow. So I was able to hire a quality COO for the first time, got benefits set up, payroll. I still wasn't paying myself though.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I was paying
That's a
her.
huge sacrifice.
Huge sacrifice. Because I felt like, I've got money, or I'm doing this thing on the side. I'm not, I'm just trying to get this thing to fly. And big mistake though, because when COVID happened in the 2020, if you weren't paying yourself, you did not get money for that. And so I was paying myself $1 so I could get healthcare. But it wasn't it wasn't nearly enough. And I think that builds into resentment over time. If you don't pay yourself, but you pay others, and you see them maybe not doing what you were expecting, it can lead to some of that resentment. So I start finally, back to your question around when have you gone too far, talk about that. When I did raise, I've raised over $2 million in funding from investors over the period of time. One during a big equity round in 2020 in September, right before I gave birth to my daughter.
Wow.
And so I'd already had a son. And raising money when you're pregnant is a whole thing. But thankfully, this was during COVID, so nobody could see. Right. That was private. It's just telling the story. But I would say I remember this distinctively. My first board meeting with investors on the board, I was proud of the fact, because I had bootstrapped this thing from the get-go. I was like, we're actually going to make a profit at the end of this. It looks like for end of 2020. And I remember them saying, Jen, what are you doing with our money? You have to spend our money. What do you, so it's basically like, what's your plan? Like, why are you getting profitable? Why are you talking about profit here? Like, you got to spend our money. And all of a sudden, then I got freaked out, and I was like, oh man, I need to spend money. So then I just started spending money, like, woo, but spending cash, and I'll hire you to do this, and you do this. And then we grew way too fast. I hired too fast, too soon, ended up with an organization of 26 people, some contractors, some employees, all across the country, y'all. I did all the things you should not do from an HR perspective. Wow. Hiring people remotely, way too fast, no culture, and just all the fires, trying to build all different departments at the same time, from sales to marketing to customer success and tech, trying to build everything at the same time. And it absolutely crumbled under me. And the pressure itself crumbled. I found myself panicking on weekends, hiring a babysitter to sit so I could do work on a weekend. And then that continued on until suddenly the cracks started falling. We lost one of our biggest customers because Facebook rebranded to Meta. We lost a third of our revenue, and suddenly layoffs had to come, and the culture completely plummeted. So we had to. It took us 2 years to recover from that. Wow. And we struggled to raise money because when your charts are going up and to the right, everything's shiny and great, sparkly, great future. People will believe what you project because you have proven track. But as soon as you have a dip in your revenue, investors smell the blood and they start going after you. And if you have convertible notes at that point, which I didn't realize, they will renegotiate those when they come due, and they will start taking huge chunks of your equity. So our cap went from 14 million down to 5 within a year. Wow. And so down rounds can really impact your own morale as a founder. And so I realized real quickly that I started to feel like a victim and being trapped in my own company, and feeling like I felt like I was being bossed around by investors that weren't doing a damn thing except giving me money in the beginning, right? And so
at a
very big cost to my mental health. So I remember having this almost existential moment where I almost felt like walking away, and I had to decide. I was like, I need to just face the shadow. And again, my husband was right there with me. It was over Thanksgiving break. I was in Raleigh. I remember where I was in the room where I grew up. And he sat me down. He's like, what's the worst case scenario? Let's just stare it in the eye and like actually walk through that door. Worst case scenario is we run out of cash. We have to go bankrupt and we close down. And then he's like, well, what does that mean you get to do next? I was like, I'll probably start something new, or I can get a job, and I'll be like released of this debt, this feeling, this weight on me. And I was like, actually, that feels pretty good. What would you have time to do now? I'd have time to focus on my health, work out, hang out more with my kids, maybe write a book. And so all of a sudden, that scenario didn't seem so scary anymore. And it didn't have its power over me anymore. And so when I was brave enough to actually look at the shadow, see it for what it was, I was able to actually take the next best step. Back to Frozen reference. What is that next best step that you can take to climb yourself out of the darkness? And so I said, you know what? I'm going to own what has happened, confront it, and with reality, not from a place of emotional fear, back to your survival instinct, because you're in your survival mode.
that scarcity and that fear is just clouds everything.
And it brings you further down into it.
It's so hard to get out of.
It's so hard, yeah.
So, and you can't think about abundance, which is what you really need and want. And so I read this abundance prayer that I found in a book. Someone had recommended a book called It's Not Your Money. And it was so powerful because it reminded you of, and money is just a source of energy to allow your dreams to come true.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like
It's a tool.
It's a tool. It is not the end all be all.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm talking a lot. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
But this moment, oh my God, was so pivotal for me. I remember where I was. It was in November 2022. And that's the moment I decided to take back my company emotionally and spiritually. And I was going to call it my way. And I also stopped working weekends. I stopped working after 6 p.m. In the evenings. And I started working out more. I started fueling myself again. I started taking back ownership of my health and my mental health. And I started talking to more like my spiritual therapist in a way, my astrologist, and leaning into my own practice of reading this abundance prayer every morning, even when I would choke up during some portions of it, where it was like about self-worth and worthiness. And being able to give and receive and feeling worthy to receive and give is powerful. So that for me was a healing moment that has allowed me to find our new path. And I'm so happy to say, like, we haven't taken on a dime of funding since then, but we have gotten out of debt. I paid off our, we had a line of credit, $100K, paid that off. I paid off the first $90K loan as well this February.
Nice.
So back to the,
congratulations.
We got a new one for 2%. But, and now we're actually in the profit, and we have over $600K in our bank, and we're looking good. I'm able to comfortably say, like, we have enough to cover all of the expenses for the rest of the year for our team. And I'm so proud of this. I never paid myself maternity leave. I gave myself 6 weeks.
Oh, nice.
I'm paying her 3 months fully paid maternity leave.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So nice.
And yeah, so just the ability to be able to do that from where we were then to now, I owe tremendously to the mindset that I have now.
So you said thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your vulnerability and your willingness to share. You shared so much, so many jewels in there. I'm going to be snipping that. I'm going to be snipping that for 8 months. Thank you. Tamara, so let's get into the lens of, like, 'cause it was a lot of femininity, you know, in our energy and alignment. I felt it when we were speaking before we came in here. I'm like, oh yeah, we're there together. How much of that who we are instinctively as women, how much of that shows up in when you're walking in the room? So let's kind of start easing into, like, how you funded your business, and how much of all of these things that Jen has shared has been, would you say, the reason or the advantage? Or has it been the disadvantage? You know, the fact that she took a step back, got in alignment, setting boundaries, you know, is that more an advantage or a disadvantage when it comes to the reality of having to fund and sustain a business?
Yeah. So my funding experience has been very different than Jen's. We did friends and family, and like I said, bootstrapped, like, you know, got myself intensely in debt personally. But thank God for COVID, actually, because I was able to defer my mortgage, right? There was like a lot of things I was able to do through COVID, and which actually helped me. And also another shout out to Invest Atlanta. I got the Resurgence grant during COVID. So that was $40K that really kept us going, because that was the money I used for like a year. And then, you know, I stepped in when I got into Techstars and interacting with a lot of the ecosystem, and I was like, okay, well, what you do is you get funding from VCs, and you gotta, you know, spend your time getting to know people and get your list together, and, you know, and have your projections so you can show. Don't worry about profitability, right? Don't worry about profitability. Just show this. If you get money, spend it towards trying to get, you know, growth. And to me, that's sort of a very masculine way of growth and looking at things. And I was in that for several years, and I think to a huge detriment to my business, because I wasn't really building it as a solid business with solid processes and things to really get it very solid at the base. I always was thinking, okay, how can I be at $100 million? How can I show that? Think about that. Don't worry about the money. You're going to raise money again. Just spend the money, try to raise money. And I did that. And that's why I'm in the situation I'm in personally, financially right now, which is bad. And I pay myself now most of the time, but when there isn't money, I don't pay myself, right? So I just put stuff on credit cards. And I'm still in that mode because I got into Techstars, which was awesome also because I got that funding, and that was a wonderful supportive environment. But it got me entrenched in that sort of more masculine way of thinking. So it was, what's 25 right now. So about 2 years ago, I finally was like, after trying to raise VC funds and just no, even angel syndicates. I mean, there was one that I went to and like, well, we really like what you're doing, but when you're in $1 million ARR, come back to us and we'll consider. And I'm like, I don't even know how I'm going to get there, and so I just like piecemealed just little things here and there. A big source for me for funding has been, I decided to do a WeFunder round, equity crowdfunding, because my PANDA is all about community, right? Talking about the feminine aspect of collaboration and connection and working together to build things together. I mean, that's where I'm comfortable. That's where I thrive. And so I've really stepped into that and just decided, screw the way I'm supposed to be doing it. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to chase after this. So what do I need to do to just pay attention to like what I need to do in my business to get it to be money coming in the door from customers, right? So it's like, now I'm just like focused on, okay, I get my money from my customers because I've got my product built. I mean, everything is working. It's good. And so just what do I need to do to get more money that way? And then leaning into my community. And it's great with the equity crowdfunding platforms, the Regulation CF, because it allows anybody to invest. You don't need to be accredited. And so I've got many friends and many customers. Jen is actually an investor in my PANDA.
And a customer.
And a customer, yep.
I love it. Big part of my sanity the last 6 months, so thank you.
I love it so much.
Yes, so great.
And so I decided to do that, and I had some PANDAs that invested. I've had tons of customers that have invested, and people love it. They can invest as little as $100, and they're part of it. Saturday, we had our investor appreciation party, which was super fun, and it was great to meet a lot of these people, in real life and connect with them, and so it just felt. I stepped into that feminine way of being, and my support systems too have been, I love your story with your husband. I mean, what an awesome support that is, and very few of my actual friends and my other life are entrepreneurs. They don't understand it, but
it's helpful being married to a social entrepreneur as well.
Yes.
Gets it.
Oh my gosh, yes. My poor kids sometimes are my support. They're like, Mom, just take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
Come meditate with me.
Yeah, I know, right? But I have found great support to help get me through these times from the women, the people in my cohort, and like some of them are still some of my very best friends, and we are there for each other all the time. And people like Jen and other women, really, and there definitely are some men too, because there's some awesome guys out there. But my woman tribe really is that it's the only thing that's gotten me through, and they also have kind of helped with the funding of the company a little bit, right? To keep me going. So, so I think that stepping into that and really owning that feminine energy and working from a place of collaboration, trying to grow organically and authentically has been it's just changed everything for my company. Your abundance prayer, for about 1.5 years, I was listening to abundance meditations at night when I was going to sleep.
Yeah.
So it was like, and I choose a word every year in 23 3 was abundance, because I was like, I have to get myself out of this mindset.
So far, I'm feeling like being underestimated is really another path to empowerment.
Yes.
It really allows you the opportunity to reconnect to yourself in a way that only the entrepreneurship journey could afford, those type of opportunities. And that's so powerful for so many reasons. But when we think about how potential investors, view that, have you felt underestimated? Out of all these things you all have shared, your journey, your resilience, which I'm going to ask you one final question at the end of this about the resilience piece. Have you still felt underestimated when you're having these conversations? And if so, like, what do you do with those thoughts or that vibe, that feeling that you get when you know that you've got it and you've pushed through and you're doing all these things in the silence behind closed doors by yourself, grinding it out, and you're still like not being taken seriously or feeling underestimated? Like, what do you do with that energy? Like, how do you handle that?
I can answer that. So once you have a board and investors that have given money and then your graphs start turning downwards, the vibe shifts in those meetings for sure. And suddenly it's all about pointing the finger and mostly at you. And especially if people all of a sudden are leaving the company, they look at you as to why. And suddenly, so I felt like I was being blamed for a lot of things that were honestly out of my control, and we were doing the best we could. So at first I felt very like, automatic response is to become defensive. But then that plays into their card, because suddenly I'm being called emotional in meetings. I'm being called, don't get defensive, Jen. And it's like, wow, okay, I'm just explaining myself. I'm actually not being emotional right now. There have been some where I have been in tears because they're basically saying, I think we're going to just close down and basically sell all the assets for parts and pieces, and so that, of course I'm going to get emotional because I have poured my whole life into this company. And I'm going to get teary-eyed, okay? And I'm going to tell you that I'm a passionate human being, and nobody can be an entrepreneur without passion.
Right.
So don't tell me I'm being emotional.
Right.
Yeah. So in that moment, there was a lot, and so meetings got really tense. But they would pour onto me, think we need to be meeting bi-weekly. And so I said, okay. And they want this information every week. And I said, okay, fine. I will do that. I did it every meeting. We held a meeting every 2 weeks for like 3 years, y'all.
Oh my gosh.
It felt like that. And I gave a report. Here's the thing. I gave them access to everything they wanted. Full transparency, right? And I just showed them steadily and had to rebuild that trust to say, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And this is it, and this is where we are. And so if they're feeling fear and threatens they're going to lose their money, what their underlying need is, they need the communication and they need that trust. So I gave them what they needed and told them the good news and the bad news, and how to rebuild that sense of trust and faith in me. But I still felt this resentment. There was still this underlying tension. And I kid you not, I was at a women's retreat in October of last year. And we were going through this meditation, and it was like a forgiveness meditation. And so all of a sudden I felt all of this and like almost frustration and fear. I put myself in their shoes for just a moment in time. And I realized, wow, like all the times where I maybe didn't listen to their advice, where I tried to raise more money than they had suggested. And when I had tried, all of these things that I was living in a more masculine world at the time, and I maybe did some things, and I was like, wow, okay. Well, I forgive them for being that way and for seeing me in that light, because maybe I was behaving in a way that wasn't helpful.
Wow.
And then I forgave myself.
Yeah.
In that same moment, and I'm going to cry.
We have to forgive ourselves.
We have to forgive ourselves. And like, I was doing the best at what I could with what I knew at that time.
Absolutely.
And it's like, wow. So I just gave myself a big old hug.
Yes.
And I gave them a big hug in my mind's eye. And I swear, like, from that moment on, the vibe shifted
Good.
in the meetings. And it was like I had released my, like that tether or that tie or that guilt or that sense of owning. Like I felt like they owned me in some way. And I just let that go. And I forgave myself and I forgave them. And it's been positive since then.
It's so healing.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
It was really...
Yes. So empathy. I just wrote about this the other day, how, experiences like this really allows us to go deeper in how we empathize with others, which makes us better leaders. Yes. So all of these things that can be viewed as, deficits or weaknesses are actually strengths.
Yes.
They're actually strengths that makes us stronger leaders. So what about you, Tamara?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the empathy, that's going to be the answer for humanity. I really think if we all had that sense of empathy, we would heal as a species. But that's a whole nother conversation. The resentment, the fear, all of that, it clouds so much. And I think it's giving yourself the permission to listen to yourself and to follow your innate intuition is so important, to be authentic in what you're doing, right? And the lack of confidence. Oh God. I finally have confidence in myself, but it was a lot of years of, shout out to Monica and she insisted that I call myself the CEO. I'm like, I just don't feel it. She's like, Tamara, come on, and she helped me a lot sort of shift my mindset of, okay, I guess I am. Because I didn't start this to have this be a big business. I started this to get the help I needed and to help other people in my neighborhood, right? I did not have a plan that 5 years later I'd be making plans to expand nationally. And, that was not my game plan from the beginning. Much like you started Civic Dinner. It's just, and so I had to go through a lot of growth process, and this is not something that you can just share and people are just going to learn how to do it. You've got to go through the experiences. Yeah. You've got to grow.
You have to.
And
there's no way around it.
There isn't. And those experiences, which also lead to mean that you're also older, right? Mm-hmm. Like if I was doing this when I was in my 20s, there would be no way. Right. I can't even, it would not have happened. So, and talking also about people underestimating you, A, being a woman, B, doing a business that is about helping people. And that's basically what it is. People are like, oh, it's just a little lifestyle business. And that offended me so much. And I'm like, now I understand what lifestyle business is. And I'm like, okay.
It's not so bad.
That's not so bad. But the way people would
Sounds
say
great,
it,
actually.
I know. Yeah. But it would be like this shameful thing. And I felt embarrassed and ashamed almost all the time, especially talking to investors.
Which I'm really pissed off about that, actually. I should have just stayed as a lifestyle business and I would be much better off right
now. So making the decision, and this is just like a little over about a year and a half ago, I'm like, I'm not going to go for VC money anymore. I'm not going to, that may change over time, again, because things change, experiences happen. But like right now, I'm like, this is not what I'm spending my time and energy on. And that is allowing me to do things guided by my principles and my desires. And I believe that I do know what I can do to make the biggest impact in the world with this business that I'm building. And I'm not being clouded by these rules that are out there about how you're supposed to do things to be impressive for investors. Like, you do that. If you do this, investors are really going to like this.
How
and
many hoops did they tell us we had to jump through? And then they're like, no thanks.
Yeah. There's no real blueprint.
No. There isn't. And it's just like, and you always hear, like, your business best, only take everyone's advice, and I'm like, okay. And you try to, but then you end up hearing things from people that you respect, and then you're like, okay, maybe I'm not doing it right. And, I could do that. And when people sometimes when they say things to you, like just certain phrases will stick in your head.
Yes.
And it just like, it begins to break you down as a human, because you just think that you are not worthy, because you're not doing it the way that they think the best way is. But I feel like I really am kind of past that now, primarily because I've, much like Jen, I've really tried to start focusing on my internal growth, my internal strength, my internal resilience, which is coming from within, because we all have it within us. But surrounding myself with the right people.
Oh, yes.
And stepping away from the ones that I thought were the ones I should hook onto. And just stepping away from that and letting go of it. And finding the people that lift me up, that fill me with love and appreciation and understanding. That helps me be my strongest version of myself, which is just pouring into my business. And so now I have the confidence in myself, and I just try to ignore, and a lot of it, I mean, sometimes I have to have a little anger, a little of that, F you sort of thing.
Seriously.
It is fueling and motivating.
It is. But you don't really show that. But you talk about it with your friends. So anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at. A mixture of all those things have helped get me to this point where I just feel
this
stronger.
is amazing. Both of you have shared so many jewels just around, what it takes to overcome being underestimated. So thank you. I have two final questions. The first one is, are there returns on resilience? Are there returns on resilience?
Absolutely. I mean, I think resilience is almost the only way you get returns.
Okay.
I mean, we'll stick with entrepreneurship, but I think in life in general, right, you've got to be able to just pick yourself up and keep going and find your internal strength. I mean, that's where I get my resilience from. I mean, a lot of times a lot of people have said to me lately, like, oh my God, your resilience is so impressive and inspiring, because I've got patience for just eons, and I have resilience. Like, those are my two things that I really help me succeed. But yeah, I mean, if you can't keep going and find the strength within you by tapping into that internal strength that you have inside of you, because we all have it, and you got to find it somehow. And generally it has to do with breathing. And being still and listening to your inner self and to the other forces around you that are feeding you. And that's the only way, and the emotional return on that and the growth return on that is immeasurable. And that is those are the returns I've gotten so far. I'm still waiting on the financial returns, but I'm getting there. But again, it's not my money, right?
Yeah,
so,
I love that.
And I'm surviving. I have what I need right now. So a lot of times I just look at that and I don't crave after the things that I don't need, because that's not going to do me any good. And so I think that it's the only way to get returns.
Oh my gosh.
Gavin,
so
that was
beautiful.
amazing. Do you have anything to add to that?
Oh my gosh. I echo your sentiment exactly. I feel like for my journey as an entrepreneur, I think of resilience as like a death and rebirth process where a part of you let go of that no longer serves you.
Yep.
And then you are able to see again with a fresh perspective, whether it's how you view yourself or how you view this opportunity. And I have so many of those moments, those crucial moments where I had the opportunity to walk away or to change something or react in a way. And instead I just paused, really went inward and had that crucial conversation with myself, and then emerged anew. And I think that resilience, the willingness to keep going, despite I think there's a harmful resilience where you're just like keep battering, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and that's going to lead to insanity, as we all know. But I think you have to shift and do the thing that works best for you. Like the big aha for me was similar to your sentiment. Is I shifted my business to appease investors. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so as soon as I like course corrected that, and I'm now more personally aligned with what we're doing now more than ever. Even and I find my resilience from speaking directly to the source. Sometimes I get instant downloads and I'm like,
Yes.
what? Some that scare me, but they were so big.
Yeah.
And like one is that my purpose is to open hardened hearts and prepare the world for transformation. I'm like, what? That's too big. No thanks. But actually now I'm seeing it laid out in front of me, and I'm actually having these experiences that align with that. So I feel more attuned, but within myself, and getting confirmation from the universe in many ways.
I
And
love
that is
that.
what gives me the fuel to
Confirmation
carry on.
feels so good.
Gosh, it does.
And you got to be still to hear those messages sometimes too. That's where the breathing and the silence sometimes is important.
Yeah. You two have my energy was a little low when I came in, and I was just like, oh my God, it's Monday. I think I woke up like in the middle of the night, like 3:30. You know how that happens.
Oh yeah, that time.
And I felt like I sleep around 5 something, but it was time for me to get up. So it was a little off this morning, but you all have just recharged me, in a major way. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your openness and your vulnerability and your authentic sharing of your journey. You're gonna impact so many people, I can tell from this episode. So it's very, very important. So
Thank you.
all righty, well, that's a wrap. I'm Dr. Dawn. This is Returns on Resilience. Until next time, subscribe, follow us at weatlanta.com. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us for Returns on Resilience. If this conversation sparked something in you or reminded you of someone who needs to hear it, share it, follow us wherever you listen to podcasts, and visit weatlanta.com for more stories, resources, and ways to connect.